What are video games? You could look up the wiki entry and read that they're electronic games that involve interaction with the user interface to generate visual feedback on a video device, but while you could maybe impress someone by memorizing that technical description, it's far from a complete answer to my question, so let me fine-tune it. What can video games be? What should they be? Art? Vehicle for narrative? Therapeutic treatment? Learning tool? Social space? Sport? Drug? Or simply a game? Electronic checkers. Video games certainly started that way. They were novelties with simple mechanics meant to entertain. In-game characters and narrative were contrived to give context to the gameplay. Eventually, alongside frantic shooters and platformers, games designed to tell a story first and foremost started to appear. The gameplay in point-and-click games was exactly what it sounds like, and they played more like interactive graphic novels. No one played these for the thrill of the clicks. And actually, if you did, that's fine. You know, you do you. Recently, Telltale's brand of point-and-click adventures and some story-centric games critically referred to as walking simulators have gotten more popular, while at the same time, AAA games that tack on a lackluster story campaign or drop it altogether in favor of multiplayer-only modes have become more prevalent. This has ignited a debate about what role story plays in games and whether it has a place there at all. So let's look at the argument against story in games.
Let's find out what was so important.
You might be a gamer who prefers games with minimal story elements. You play games for the gameplay, the shooting, the competing, the collecting, the leveling up. You might not expect or want to experience a deep narrative as part of your game, just as you don't need to know the motivations and backstories of the wooden players in a game of foosball.
This match is my chance to avenge the injustice heaped upon my family's honor. Jeez, it's just a game, bro.
This view is called the ludological or ludic perspective, and in some sense, it's the more purist one. Video games started as simple games, so there's something to be said for appreciating them for what they're truly good at: facilitating play, which, besides just being fun, has been shown to reduce stress, boost memory and reflexes, strengthen social bonds, and allow you to brag about your KD ratio to Dylan. Eat it, Dylan. As pure entertainment, games excel. You can experience amazing things in video games that you just can't experience in movies or comic books. It's one thing to hear Roy Batty speak of seeing attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion, and another thing to pilot a starship yourself. And yet another to pilot a squadron of ships, crewed by your friends. But there's also an argument to be made that games just aren't as good as other mediums at telling stories. Dr. Ian Bogost, writing for The Atlantic, makes the case that for every game that attempts to tell a good story, there's a novel or a film that can do it better. Bogost describes walking simulators like Dear Esther or What Remains of Edith Finch as story fragment collectors. These games not only have little in the way of actual gameplay, but don't actually tell stories in a new way, as you're simply collecting story-relevant items like diaries and audio logs, which together tell the story. So do I need to be here for this? But even more traditional games could be interpreted this way if all the important story development is done in non-playable cutscenes, or QuickTime events for that matter. QuickTime events. How does a game consisting of action sequences linked by cutscenes differ from a movie? Oh, because you can collect, there's 10 skulls each level, you can collect them and then you get the point after. You get an extra point. I don't know, perhaps game developers should stick to what they do best, making fun, engaging gameplay. Bogo says the dream that games will evolve into this full holodeck-like experience will never come. But what if he's wrong? What if games do have that potential? I would argue that Bogos' argument is somewhat reductionist. Sure, the stories in walking simulators very well could be told better by a novel or a film. But there are also story-driven titles that showcase video games' ability to tell stories better than any other medium. If you value games mostly because of their ability to tell stories, you view games from the narratological or narrativist perspective. After all, why shouldn't video games be used to tell stories? They're like every other art medium combined. They're like a Voltron of art forms. Narrative writing, visual design, cinematography, sound design, and music composition, architecture, you could even throw sculpting in there if you think about level and character design. If film can tell stories, then video games are just as valid as a narrative medium. But they add a crucial new factor: interactivity. Instead of watching and empathizing with the protagonist on screen, when you're playing a game, in your head, you are the protagonist. Sure, some games don't use this novelty for much, as you simply play as your character through levels of a game between cutscenes that progress the story. But other games let you experience story events and relationships with in-game characters firsthand, and that makes up a profoundly different, deeper appreciation of the story, and with it, the ideas and message that it may or may not be trying to get across. And still other games let you create a character, and with them, an emergent story as you move, often naked, through open worlds with seemingly limitless possibilities and no judgment from those fascists who want you to wear clothes. Looking at games this way, it's hard not to think of them as the ultimate storytelling tool. We experience so much in our lives, but rarely have the opportunity to reflect on our own story and have the lessons that are being taught to us every day really sink in. Games are a way to experience stories as a character in those stories, and that can help us understand our own real story, the story of us. So, are games better as a tool for storytelling or gameplay? It's inherently a subjective question. The answer will be different for everyone, but I think the right answer is neither. The best games, to me, are the ones that excel at both, pairing an engaging, thought-provoking story with really fun gameplay. The Last of Us, Knights of the Old Republic, the Half-Life and Portal series, which have story events happen in real time without taking control away from the player. Games like these understand the importance of quality narrative and game mechanics, especially games that use gameplay to enhance the narrative and vice versa. As much as I love storytelling in games, I'm not going to get nearly as excited about the next Gone Home or Firewatch, or the next Overwatch or CSGO for that matter, as I am about the next BioShock or The Last of Us. Putting games in only one category, either that of simple entertainment or interactive story experiences, is to do a disservice to the versatility of the medium. Video games are games, and they're art, and they're learning tools, and they're therapy, and they're sports, and they can be a drug. Video games are not one thing. And that's why this video is the first in a series, exploring all the different things that games can be. Thanks for watching episode 1, because this is the end of it. It's over now.
Central Pack. Hey guys, remember me? Remember what I said in that first video about how this video was gonna come out about a week after that video? Yeah, me neither. Especially probably because that sentence was grammatically confusing at best. I have been a lot busier than I thought I'd be, working full-time at Secret Informant, hosting and producing that food and travel web series I talked about before, and I've been chipping away at this video in my spare time. And yes, this video, it's a video essay, and that's what I want to do on this channel. I mean, they won't all be about video games. I want to talk about a ton of different concepts, but I did want to start with this 3-episode series. So let me know in the comments if you want to see more things like this, if you like this format, if you just want to see tech news, if you don't like me at all, in which case, I don't know why you're still watching this video in particular. Now, as for my video schedule going forward, I want to try and get the next video in this series, which will be on the practical applications of video games, like as therapy or skill development, out in December, but that might also be impossible because we're currently filming season 1 of Secret Informant, the web series. And as some of you who may be in film production know, producing a series takes a lot of work and a fair bit of cash. Which brings me to my next point. Secret Informant, we're in the final stages of launching our Kickstarter campaign. So that's going to come out sometime this week, and then the web series itself will launch in January. I encourage you guys to check it out when we launch, obviously because I'm involved in the project, but also because it's a really cool idea with a strong message. You guys can keep up to date with that by following Secret Informant on social media. I'll pretty much be one of the only people posting on that, so you'll basically be following me. And you can also follow me on my social media if you haven't done that already, if you want to. Okay, that's about enough of this. Leave a comment below if you're a comment-leaving type of individual. Stay tuned for more content and updates. And yeah, love you, appreciate you, and I'll see you in another video sometime. So.